All right, we want to welcome you. It is 7 o'clock, so we're going to get started right on time. Welcome, and thank you all for delaying things by a week so we could deal with the bad weather last week. But welcome to Ask the Expert. Oregon Clackamas used to do several Ask the Expert forums before the pandemic, so this is the first one. We started back, and we've got two rock stars to re-kick off this series. We are going to be filmed, so if you want to ask a question later or prefer not to articulate it, feel free to write it down and just hand it to one of us. We have a few of our staff who are here. Sherry is right there. Raise your hand, Sherry. Gary is right there in the back, and Frankie is just around the corner. You can't see them. But feel free. And Linda, where's Linda? Oh, Linda's right here. I thought Linda was sitting on the couch. Linda's right here in the second row, so feel free to hand questions to any of us. A little bit of NAMI Clackamas 101 for those of you who I think most of you know our three areas of focus since 1978 have been on education, support, and advocacy. That was true back in the 70s. That remains true today. This is our board. We have a couple. Actually, maybe we just, is Deanna our only board member who's here? I guess. Oh, and Linda Castaneda right here.
Mary. Yeah.
And Mary Clark right there. So we have three of our board members. Thank you, Deanne, Linda, and Mary. We have a fabulous board from all across our county. A few upcoming things, and you can see flyers about all these events immediately on the table to your right when you leave. Not in priority order, but just in chronological order. Next Thursday, we have an online winter blues presentation that we encourage you to sign up for if you want to learn about how our mental health gets impacted by seasonal depression. We have a legislative advocacy training the week after that. It's also going to be on Zoom. It will be an opportunity. If you haven't done legislative advocacy before, it's really fun and easy to do, especially in a place like Oregon. And so we'll be happy to give you some tips and tricks during that training. Then our annual Stand-Ups Against Stigma Comedy Night is coming up on March 14th. So there's a flyer about it. We have five fabulous comedians. This is the third year we've done it, and it's just really a great opportunity to hear people come and use comedy to talk about their mental health. And we have one of our Tara has actually been a comedian at both 100% of our Stand-Up Against Stigma Comedy Nights. We're adding in every year some new comedians and rotating some folks out, and it should be a really good event, so please save that date to plan to join us. We are starting a women's support group. That will be meeting in person in Milwaukee. We never disclose the location about these, but if you register for it, you'll get the information about the location. But that's going to be on the first and third Wednesdays at 5 p.m. And by the time it starts, the days should be long enough that it's actually light again at 5 p.m. Maybe even at 6:30 probably by then, actually. So Linda Petchel is going to be one of the co-facilitators of that group, so feel free to talk to Linda or grab a flyer on your way out. That should be a great peer connection support group. And then our second Ask the Expert is going to be with Dr. Christine Crawford. She is not only the author of this book, You Are Not Alone for Parents and Caregivers, but she's the National NAMI Associate Medical Director and works in medicine in Boston. So she is coming out. She's going to be here live in person on April 3rd. We changed the date on that, so I want to make sure. Yes, Thursday, April 3rd. So definitely check that out, and we would love to have you there. That's going to be a free event like this. Just two other comments. Everything that NAMI Clackamas does is driven by two things. One, our amazing volunteers. You can see some stats about the volunteer hours from last year that are up there. So many of our support groups and classes are led and taught by volunteers. We have volunteers tabling, we have volunteers doing all kinds of things. And so if you'd like to get engaged as a volunteer, you can either go to that website right there, or more easily, you can just talk to Sherry, and she would be happy to connect you with volunteer opportunities. And then our donors are the other half. Several of you are members of our monthly NAMI Clackamas Champion Circle group of monthly donors. We wouldn't be able to do anything close to what we're doing without that consistent support. So you can learn more about that. Also, also on our website, or you can pick up a flyer from the table and learn more about joining the Champion Circle. With that, it is my pleasure to turn things over to our two special guests. First up is going to be Ebony Sloan Clark. Most people probably don't know that she lives right here in Clackamas County. So Ebony lives on one. I'm not going to tell you where either of them lives. I'll just say one of them lives on one side of the county and one of them lives on the other. They're actually almost kind of in two different worlds, but both in Clackamas County.
Yeah, exactly.
But she has a long history in behavioral health. She worked for many, many years in Multnomah County as the director there, and then came to the Oregon Health Authority as the director of behavioral health for the state of Oregon. So we are really blessed to have her as our kickoff speaker, our first AXI expert. And then she will be followed by Mary Rumbaugh, who's been for many, many years the director of behavioral health for Clackamas County. And starting at the beginning of last month, she was promoted to be the director of health, housing, and human services. So this title, right there, is her fancy new title, but many of us have worked with her as director of behavioral health in the county. So we have two people with tons of experience in behavioral health, both really good speakers, so you're really going to be blessed tonight. But be thinking about your questions, because after they both speak, we're going to open it up, and we have a couple of mics. And I know they would love to hear your questions, and you've got a real opportunity to ask questions of people who have a tremendous amount of experience. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ebony Sloan Clark.
All right, good evening. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, well, it's definitely an honor to be here, and it's always exciting when I have opportunity to be in community within my community. So this is great. I actually want to start with reading a quote. Peer support is a system of giving and receiving help founded on key principles of respect, shared responsibility, and mutual agreement on what's helpful. Peer support is not based on psychiatric models and diagnosis criteria. It is about understanding one another's situations empathetically through shared experiences of emotional and psychological pain. And that's a quote by Sherry Mead, who is the founder of the International Peer Support. And whenever I get opportunity, I like to live out my commitment to what it means to really assure that I am leading and carrying myself based on the voice of those with lived and living experience. Because what I know and what I have seen is that without peers and without the voice of those with lived experience, I frankly don't think that we would see and have and experience the gains that we've seen thus far, and we wouldn't be moving in the right direction in terms of, our transformational efforts. And so I'll say and start with recognizing that peers are exceptional and irreplaceable in our system. And the other thing I just want to always highlight too is especially thinking about bureaucratic systems, thinking about key leaders, it's not often that our work is grounded in that. And so one of the ways that I hold myself accountable, one of the ways that I work to be transparent is taking any opportunity to do that. And so in thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, because quite frankly, my commitment and what I'm interested in are the questions that you all have for both myself and Mary. I thought it'd be important to talk about the history of the peer movement in Oregon. And so that's what I'm going to focus my time on, and I'm not sure if I'll take the full 15 minutes or not. I want to note that in Oregon's modern history with regards to the peer movement, we would be remiss if we didn't speak to and uphold the role that peers have paved and created and trailblazed. I also want to recognize that when we think about communities and when we think about cultures across the nation, across the world, and across our state, a lot of what we see is storytelling, talking circles, and caring communities. And when I think about the roots and the foundation of the peer movement, I think that there's a lot of similarities in that. You know, there's power in story, there's power in action, there's power in voice, there's power in words. That said, I recognize that, again, peers have always existed and always will exist. Whether living with mental health diagnoses or substance use disorders, people with lived and living experience look after one another. We know, and research keeps telling us, the data keeps telling us time and time again, that we see the most success, we see the best outcomes when we have individuals who have had the opportunity to have someone walk alongside them who've experienced that same journey and approach. And so with that, we know that we cannot see our sustained gains and successes without peers. In Oregon, the official peer movement began in the 60s and 70s in Portland, most notably defined by the creation of the Insane Liberation Front, which is believed to be the first ever consumer right group run by consumers. Peer advocacy grew out of the civil rights movement, and over the next several decades will continue to grow and evolve, building awareness, solidarity, including with clinicians, advocates, and other social justice groups. And then when we think about the state, when we think about specifically the Oregon Health Authority, in the 90s, the Office of Consumer Technical Assistance began out of the effort through collaboration. And it worked to incorporate peers into various OHA strategies and resources. Fast forward to 2006, consumer advocates partnered with allies in the state legislature to codify the role of peers within statute, which eventually resulted in the creation of the Oregon Consumer Advisory Council. And that is OCAC, or also known as the Oregon Consumer Advisory Council, which is alive and well and thriving today. And that table provides guidance and recommendations on mental health and addiction services and policy for the state of Oregon. Everything was changing. What we know also, especially in the landscape, in the realm of behavioral health, one of the things that we can rely on, and one thing that is constant, is change. And through that end, CMS officially recognized peer support services and approved the services through Medicaid billable services, directing states to develop trainings and certification requirements so that this could also be sustained and codified within our continuum of care specific to behavioral health. Also at that time, OHA works to formally integrate peers into the scope of our behavioral health work, beginning with the Office of Consumer Activities, and now specifically actually in 2022, and it continues to remain today, it shifted from the Office of Consumer Activities to the Office of Recovery and Resilience, which was implemented with 9 staff, and we refer to the Office of Recovery and Resilience as our ORR team that leads our peer work and sits within our behavioral health division. We have a leader that is a part of our executive behavioral health leadership group and works to make sure that we're centering our work from the inception throughout the process, really rooted in, again, lived experience and living experience. As we also reflect on the tenuous path and the fight and the advocacy, the persistence of peers, I recognize that it shows the role, how critical advocacy is. It shows the nature of persistence, and it shows what the outcome can be. And quite frankly, when I reflect on just when I go through the history, and I think it's always important to center and pause and think about the history of peers, it's been about 40 years, and that's not a time. But at the same time, if you think about 4 years, look at where the peer movement is today. It's alive and well. Peer voice and inclusion has diversified and increased how the state funds our various services and strategies. We've recognized the importance, again, of working to make sure that our resources, our policy, our decision-making is peer-led and peer-informed. We recognize how the peer voice has held the system accountable in terms of really making sure that we are living out and stepping into community engagement. We continue to see peers being integrated and incorporated into various community-based programs, into various local government structures, and into our current coordinated care organizations. We recognize that peers have mobilized across the state to form traditional health worker certification trainings. There's a creation of a new peer delivery service and peer-run spaces as well. And I think that, again, when we think about just the stigma and the impact of living with mental illness, I think it's a powerful statement when we can say, look and see how living and lived experience, peers, consumers, and those who are impacted have really trailblazed the way and really work to, quite frankly, hold the system accountable. So specifically, when I think about internally, the Oregon Health Authority and not only the Office of Recovery and Resilience, I think that it's easy to get in front of a group of people and talk and be performative. For those that know me, I believe in transparency and accountability. And I think, I know personally what it means to have someone telling you, here's what you need to do to find a solution to the issues you're experiencing. I know what it's like to have someone promise you, oh, there's help, just call this phone number. I know what it's like to have someone tell you, oh, if you go to this address over here, they'll be able to help you. I know what it's like to support family and loved ones who supposedly have insurance that will help meet their emotional needs. And I know what it's like to be told time and time again, yeah, we have resources. We have a full continuum of care. Just do this, just do that, and everything will be great. And I know what it's like time and time and time again to arrive at the door and have the door not open or have the door slammed in your face. And so, as I've been at the Oregon Health Authority for about 2 years now, my commitment is truly to work to assure that everything from our strategic plan to our decision-making to the policies that we drive and the governance that we hold in terms of overseeing and assuring accountability with the behavioral health system, again, is really centered around the needs of those with living and lived experience. It's centered around the needs of community. It's centered around the needs of family and loved ones versus the preferences of what's easier for those sitting around the table to do and decide. So I'm already starting to go off on a tangent. So with that, within our Office of Recovery and Resilience, there are several things that shape the work that we do. And a lot of the work that we do is centered on working to reduce relapse rates, to increase treatment retention, to improve relationships with treatment providers and community. And quite frankly, the Office of Recovery and Resilience sits within the Behavioral Health Division and has a seat within executive leadership to hold us accountable and to work to assure that we are not only listening, but we are acting and integrating the voice and the recommendations. Our role has been to assure that as the administrator, that again, we're working to demonstrate system change and transformation. Our goal is to build a system where every person can receive services regardless of their socioeconomic status, regardless of if they have insurance, regardless of who they know, regardless of where they're starting at. Our goal is to assure that every service is delivered with dignity and the needs of each individual is at the center of their care journey. I also want to highlight that it's easy to not have true faith in bureaucracy. I think that, I hear time and time again how a lot of times it's the suits that show up and say, this is what's best for you. And oftentimes one of my quotes or one of my Ebonyisms is that I'm a true believer that individuals and that community truly hold the answer to their wellness. And my commitment as a leader within OHA is to really get us to a place where we can, step into the present day, where we can be bold and where we can be courageous to begin to try new things and not stay stuck in the past. I also want to highlight that there's a lot of things that we can say and speak to that we are not satisfied about and that haven't worked well. And at the same time, I want to recognize that there are things that are effective and are impactful, and our commitment is to continue to look at how do we further replicate and move that along, but at the same time, how do we stay in this place where we can be transformative? And just quite frankly, I'm not going to go into my own personal story, but someone helped my mother back in the mid-'70s, and so I can say that even though the system probably wasn't the best for my mom back in the 70s, there was something that worked. And so I always want to highlight that there are gems and diamonds in the rough, and that's where we need to be hopeful and that we need to make sure that we're being strength-based. Within my role at OHA and within the Office of Recovery and Resilience and within my full team, we are firmly committed to really integrating the essential role of peers in our work. As we continue to develop OHA's strategic plan and live out and carry that out, again, it's centered around making sure that we're meeting the needs of individuals, and that when we think about improvements, how do we work to make sure as a system that we're not the cause or the challenge for the barrier. So as we have the various rules and statutes, how do we, again, create a process where we can be fluid, we can be transformational, and we can be bold. And, I keep thinking of this word of how do we not stay stuck? I know that we have the power. I know that we have the responsibility. I have seen amazing things happen. I want to just recognize that within ORR and the short time period that peers have been integrated into the role of behavioral health, I want to note that strategic grants have been awarded, more than 60, allocating about maybe $5 million to various peer-delivered service programs and organizations across Oregon. I want to highlight that there's been an expansion of peers within the workforce. I want to celebrate that while we recognize that we are in a workforce shortage, especially when we're thinking about various providers, whether it be psychiatrists, whether it be therapists, one of the fastest growing areas within our workforce are peers. And that speaks to the role, the consistency, and the persistence of peers. And just want to highlight, as we continue to sit within our role at OHA, and as we continue to look at what are those various things that we can do to improve the continuum of care, to disrupt and mitigate our workforce challenge, Every time we're talking about providers or clinicians, we equally recognize the importance of talking and bringing forward and supporting additional expansions and services and support specific to peers. And so with that, I just want to end with my commitment. My commitment is to continue to work, to stand in the position that I hold, to expand our peer workforce and expand peer networks. My commitment is to also work to make sure that we are walking alongside and being informed by community and providing the technical assistance that's needed to navigate the bureaucracy and, again, not to be a challenge. My commitment is to center the work on community, consumers, survivors, and those with lived and living experience. My commitment is to disrupt the stigma and not promote the stigma. My commitment is to work to assure that every individual, regardless of the skin that they're in, feels accepted and feels like they have a place to go to seek support and start their journey of wellness. And my commitment is to continue to advocate and walk alongside and, quite frankly, work to make sure that I'm being held accountable and that my system is being held accountable, specific to the voice of peers, so that then we can continue to climb out of the challenges that we see specific to the behavioral health needs within the state of Oregon. And so with that, I will end. I look forward to taking questions shortly, but I will hand it over to Mary.
There was a reason I wanted Ebony to go first. She did a great job really setting the framework of really the commitment here in Oregon for the inclusion of peers and recognizing that peers have an important leadership role in our community. So I wanted Ebony to go first because I knew she would set the framework, and then I have the honor and opportunity to talk about how this community, Clackamas County, where you live, where you've raised your children, where you're supporting your loved ones, how we've actually taken the role of peers and truly boots on the ground. They're out there in this community helping one another, helping us. So I wanted to highlight some of our programs. I first want to just recognize the demand and the need for behavioral health services are greater now than ever. And I think, obviously, I don't need to, you all know this, the last 5 years with, many of that during the pandemic, it hit us really, really hard. And I think the only gift, if there was any gift through that several years, was really the recognition that all of us can struggle with a mental health or a substance use concern. And it got highlighted significantly during the pandemic, and it created an opportunity for us to break down stigma. And so that would be the only thing I take away from the last 5 years is our opportunity to talk about mental wellness in such a positive way. So Clackamas County has been committed to peers for a very long time. I would like to say that we are on the map as I think the first county who really embedded peers in the way that we think about the work that we do for mental health and substance use. We hired a peer coordinator many years ago who really helped us design what peers would look like in our community. So Clackamas County has sort of a long history of doing it the Clackamas way, and I feel like we did that with peers as well. But we really recognize that those with lived experience who are the best to walk alongside somebody who is starting out on their recovery journey, halfway through their recovery journey, taking a step back from their recovery journey, peers are the ones who really can walk alongside. While my role, previously as Behavioral Health Director, now as Health, Housing, and Human Services Director, my job is to help create a system that is low barrier, no barrier, and I'm excited to take all that I know about behavioral health and elevate it to my new role here in the county. So I wanted to take just a few moments to highlight some of our programs that we have that maybe you or your family members or your loved ones, your neighbors have either accessed or will have an opportunity in the future to access. All of the programs I'm going to highlight, peers are an essential part of what we do. So the first program is our 24/7 mobile crisis response team. And as much as it is in statute and rule that it is a multidisciplinary two-person team made up of licensed clinicians, care coordinators, and peers, Clackamas did not need to be told to include peers. We would have done it whether it was required or not. And the peers can either co-respond to the crisis in the community, and or they also do a lot of follow-up. So we're able to stabilize over 80% of the incidents we respond to in this community. We're able to stabilize the individual in their home and then follow up. The peers are able to follow up and not have necessarily a time-limited interaction with that individual. So peers, again, really are going to make contact, walk alongside that individual. Really critical part of our success of doing mobile crisis response. I will say, I'm glad Ebony talked about workforce. Peers are an ever-growing part of our workforce, and this work is really hard. We have to take care of peers. Peers need to be supported by their own supervisor, who's also a peer. And I will tell you, crisis work, of all the work that we do, is some of the hardest work. So we have to really make sure we're taking care of our peers. The next program I want to highlight, and there are some handouts in the back of the room, so we're going to have some prettier pictures here soon, but the first, no, that's not the right one, sorry. I'm going to highlight our Crisis Stabilization Center. Again, we've got some really pretty pictures, and one-pagers ready to go live here pretty soon. But we're really excited about what we call our Stabilization Center. It's a partnership with our Sheriff's Office. They have a building in Milwaukee that used to be a previous residential program, and the sheriff reached out and said, you know what, I don't want individuals who are in mental health crisis being served in my jail. We do not, that's not where people should be being served. We don't do a good job. We know you can do a good job. We have a building, and build out whatever makes sense for this community. So we have what we're calling the Stabilization Center. It has two complementary sides of the program. The first is called the 23-hour crisis stabilization. It is not just open 23 hours, it's a 24/7 program. The individual can stay up to 23 hours. They'll either be brought in by the mobile crisis team or law enforcement or discharged from hospital. And it will be low barrier, no barrier. It will have a little bit of sort of short-term immediate assessment, but primarily it will be staffed by peers. Our goal is to really just give that individual some time, quiet space, relax, then get them connected to follow-up services. What will be different about our stabilization center, there's a few across the state. What will be different about our stabilization center is that there will be a complementary side to the program. So the building's big enough for us to do an 8-person 23-hour stabilization program. And then we'll have what we're calling a housing stabilization with case management. Those individuals can stay up to 60 days. Many of them likely will either be referred, they'll need longer than that time of the 23-hour, and so they'll be referred over to the housing stabilization side, or they'll be referred through our coordinated housing access, so individuals who maybe are experiencing not an immediate crisis, but they are houseless, but also really struggling with some mental health concerns. So this will be pretty focused on mental health. It will not be, we will expect individuals to have some substance use concerns, but we're not a detox program. It's really about mental health. And both sides of the program, the stabilization 23-hour will be ran by a program called Clarvadia. They're actually an out-of-state company that have roots now in Portland, but this is what they do. They run stabilization centers very successfully in Arizona and Idaho and a few others. And then the housing case management side will actually be ran by the Father's Heart, which is a very local, many of you probably know So we're really excited. The goal will be opening, I'm just going to say December 2025. I hope that they're really actually going to open in October, but I'm afraid to promise October, so I'm just now saying December. Again, through all of that, peers will be a critical part of the staffing. The second program that will be coming online also, two little handouts. Wrong handout. They look like this. There's another one. So this is, you guys, we've done a lot of media on this one. Our recovery campus. And this is really, this is the vision of both our current and previous Board of County Commissioners who made a commitment 2 years ago to adopt a recovery-oriented system of care. Pretty much just charge county employees to go find a building and build out a program. And through all of that, we recognized from point A to point Z, it absolutely will have a peer component. So we have the county in December purchased what was previously Clackamas Elementary over on 92nd Avenue in unincorporated Clackamas County. It was used as a charter school. It's 3 acres, beautiful property. The building, we won't be able to do anything with the building. So we'll be starting from scratch. And it'll have a full continuum of services all the way from withdrawal management, what people call detox, residential for adults, outpatient, and then what will be different about our program compared to other campuses will be recovery housing. We know that people actually, they can go through treatment, but if they do not have that next step of recovery housing, their risk of relapse is more significant. So this will be a full continuum. Right now, it will be serving a focus on adults, but we hope over time to be able to expand to families. And then we're gonna dabble with what does it look like to also address the substance use needs of youth as well. So that program is a little farther down. We'll probably break around 2026 sometime. For Health will be the provider, and so they're helping with right now with all of the design of the program, and we're really, really excited for that partnership as well. And once again, throughout all of this, peers are a critical component of the work that we do. So, in closing, and especially to just highlight our partnership, Clackamas County has a long-standing partnership with Clackamas County. We recognize that prevention, education, and awareness about mental health and substance use is absolutely the key to breaking down stigma. And from there, I have to help build a system that is responsive to the needs of individuals who say, today I'm ready. In this moment, I am ready. And that will be the ongoing challenge for this community to have the right size, that immediate access, but it is absolutely critical that that become our North Star at all times. That we meet the individual where they are at, wherever they are at in their road to recovery. So I am committed to that North Star in my new role. I will never be able to let go of my heart being in behavioral health. So you guys are still stuck with me anytime we're going to talk about the behavioral health needs of this community. But we're very, very excited to really do some groundbreaking here in Clackamas and take it to the next level. And again, we can't do it without our peers, without the support of this community, and without the recognition of just how important this work is and how hard this work can be. But we can do it together. Again, I echo Ebony's comments about, we need to be in community, we need to hear from you all, because this is you, this is your loved ones, your neighbors, your friends who are going to access and get support from our continuum of care. So I appreciate your time, and like Ebony, and looking forward to your questions. You can throw softballs, hardballs, we got it. We'll be fine. Thank you, everyone. One-on-one.
So, we have mics that we will bring around to you. So what questions come to mind? Don't be shy. So while people are thinking about it, I have one. You both operate with colleagues, Ebony with colleagues from other states, area colleagues from other counties. I'm curious, as you interact with your colleagues, what are you most proud of about what Oregon or Clackamas County is doing in behavioral health? And what most intrigues you about something else that's happening in another state or another county?
Very good question. A couple of things, two things that I'm most proud of, actually three things that I'm most proud of. I already kind of spoke to it today. I am proud of Oregon's commitment, and I see it in a number of various counties throughout the state, but the commitment of peers and consumers and lived experience. I'm proud of how we have worked to evolve peers within our system. I think earlier I spoke to a lot of times, I used to get frustrated years ago where it was like, oh yeah, well, we're going to convene a group of people and we're going to hear their voice and give them some time, and then that was that. But within Oregon, what I see is that, again, there's this meaningful integration of voice and recommendation into the work that we do from legislation on down. It's not perfect, it takes time, but in my short years of being at OHA and just hearing some of my national colleagues and what they're doing, I feel like we're leaps ahead. I'm also proud of the relationships and the partnerships and the collaboration that we're able to do across county lines and across regions, even though we have very different challenges and needs in localities. At the same time, we see a lot of common trends and needs specific to workforce shortage, folks being impacted by overdose, the housing crisis, so much. And so I'm proud of being able to find ways to put our differences aside to really center our work, our policy, and our strategies on community and the needs of the people.
I'm really proud. Clackamas County, third largest county in the state, 440,000 individuals, very diverse. I mean, we've got urban, rural, we go all the way up to the mountain. We just actually had our mobile team up at the mountain a few weeks ago, helping an individual like snowpack. So when I say we go up to the mountain, we really actually go up to the mountain. We approve. And what I love about Clackamas County is we are actually, though we are the third largest, we are actually small enough, we're pretty nimble. I can sit at a meeting with the sheriff, with the district attorney, with partners, and we literally can convene the meeting pretty immediately and have a commitment to solving whatever the problem is in front of us. I would be remiss with the director of the Oregon Health Authority if I did not say this. Oregon has historically, and I think they're trying to improve, we are just underfunded when it comes to meeting the needs of behavioral health because there is so much stigma. And frankly, we are finally now catching up with investment in substance use. It was always so focused on mental health, and substance use is a little like the little stepchild. So we do amazing work with the dollars that we have, and it's still not enough. Because if Oregon truly had the investment that we had, that immediate access, when that person said, I'm ready, we'd have it available. We would have had it available generations ago, right? So we have such an opportunity. Now again, the last 5 years have highlighted the need for investment. So luckily, our elected officials, our legislators have invested. And the challenge is we don't have the workforce to keep up with it, and we can't build fast enough based on the need. So there's so much opportunity, and I think we're all talking the same priorities, which is great. And we have a long way to go. There are so many competing demands, right? Public safety is big. Nobody ever wants to see the sheriff's budget get reduced, right? So how do we sort of balance all of those competing demands? But I am very proud of Clackamas. I feel like we're nimble and we're small enough that we can really come together to problem solve whatever's right in front of us.
Other questions?
Here
we go.
Good evening, Brian Crady. I work for Clackamas County Children, Family, Community Connections. I think when I look back at COVID and the pandemic, yeah, it was really a hard time. But I do believe that it helped create this kind of idea of it's okay not to be okay. And now, I guess the question I have for you is, so we've got a little glimpse of light around breaking down that stigma. Where do we go from here? Like, what have we learned, or what's the path forward to continue to create that awareness of it's okay not to be okay? I know we live in a country where, this kind of this Protestant upbringing of, well, we just pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, and that's deeply ingrained in a lot of our people. But like, how do you see us like continue to say, okay, we're going to break down stigma, and what steps are we going to do intentionally to make that happen?
Just based on your question, I think there's a couple of things that just came to mind, and I'll probably do more than answer your question. I think COVID, the pandemic, helped get us unstuck as a system. I think I remember time and time again being at the table with Mary and our various colleagues, and just talking about why we can't do telehealth, and why we can't stand up various services and supports within short periods of time, and why we can't do A, B, C, or D. And I think we learned about ourselves and what's possible in the pandemic. And I think that it's important to continue to sustain the gains and the lessons learned out of that. You talked about in the pandemic, we learned that it's okay not to be okay. I think the pandemic was somewhat of a reckoning in terms of we all are impacted in one way, shape, or form, various forms. And so then with that, then how do we also continue to evolve as a system, as people, and as community? And so I think from my perspective, and I already said it earlier, I'm a firm believer that individuals and community and families hold the best answer to the solutions. And so I think that I'm committed, and I'm always going to push as much as I can to get us to new ways of thinking and to get us into these bold and courageous transformational thinking. Because quite frankly, like I said earlier, we know that there's a lot of challenges, needs, we can poke holes in so many things. And quite frankly, we can't keep doing what we did 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 10 years ago. And so we have no choice but to rely on humans and all of the innovation and the great ideas. And so we have to figure out how do we also then capture that through policy to then also move it forward within our system.
I would just add, I think our best tool for addressing stigma are to hear the stories of individuals with lived experience. And we have recently had the amazing opportunity, as you can imagine, anytime you start to pursue setting up new programs like a stabilization center, like a recovery campus, the worriers, for good reason, come out, right? And most of our community members will say, absolutely, we need to help individuals struggling. But really, just not here. Right here is not the best place. So let me tell you, X, Y, Z, why it's not the best place. So you can imagine the recovery campus has brought out the community concerns, as we can understand why. So what we've done, and I would encourage you to grab a flyer that has our webpage on it, clackamas.us/recovery center. Because what we have is we have videos of individuals with lived experience who talk about what their lives would have been like had the recovery campus campus been available to them when they were arrested for drug use, when they had their baby in prison? What difference it would have made? And I'm going to tell you, first of all, I know all of those individuals, as do a few folks in this room, because they happen to be individuals on our local mental health and addiction council who tell their story, who are now living majorly successful lives, who are now in leadership roles telling their story. But Brian, that's what makes the difference. When you hear their story, we can say all we want about all the good things we think we're doing in our professional role and we are doing good work. Like, I know my teams are, but hearing from the individuals who've been impacted and really hearing from the individuals who 10 years ago, 20 years ago, their lives would have been different had the resources we're talking about today been available to them. And they had to pay a really hard journey to get there. So that's how we break down stigma. And for these individuals to have the courage to tell their story and to be vulnerable, I hope that goes a long way in helping people understand that those who are struggling, they're us. They're our loved ones. They're not somebody else. That's our opportunity.
So between my personal and also more the direction of my professional experience, going into repeating what you strongly acknowledge is the mass difference peers can make within a community. I worked in Coffee Creek for several years, and decided because of the pandemic that didn't work out. Went back to school, and one of my professors challenged me on my goals in my careers because I thought I wanted to work with adult women and mental health. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I'm good at. That's what I've been sick with. And he pointed out that public papers, my focus was actually more about prevention. How do we get rid of prisons? Don't have a reason for them. How do we do that? We address the needs. And what I saw, I worked with well over 500 women in that time. And I candidly say 2 of them belonged there, and we let them out. But the rest of them, they ended up there because systems failed. They particularly failed them as children. And now I work with adolescents. And there's the Sources of Strength program to help with suicide prevention with adolescents. I believe only actually in 2 of our school districts within our community. That said, I don't see any peer support programs that actually address the mental health stuff going on. They have people like me who are licensed professionals who go in and tell these kids, like, these are the skills you need to learn, this is what you need to do. We don't have programs set up where the children who have been through there, have done this, are accelerating and putting them in a position to guide their peers. As we've all been children, we know kids listen to each other way more than they listen to us. So, given that I have both of you standing next to each other, is there a possibility of Clackamas County and OHA considering a collaboration on developing some kind of peer support program for youth? Whether it starts at the high school level, I strongly encourage to go younger than that also. Because that's how we will save money as a community. That's how we will save a lot as a community.
Well, I was going to say that there's a possibility. I think, as I said earlier, that, I think one of the things that we do best in Oregon is collaborate and partner. There is a table, it's a System of Care Advisory Council. It's called SOCAC. And I'm a member of that council, but that's a council where we have the various systems that touch children and youth. We have the Oregon Youth Authority. We have representation from CCOs. We have representation from education. We have representation from behavioral health. There's representation from child welfare. And that's a table where we've come to hold ourselves accountable and work in concert to bring forward innovation. I know that SOCAC is getting ready to step into strategic planning, and there is a big focus around prevention. I also know that there's a number of various community-based organizations and leaders in community that has prevention at the top of their mind, and prevention also can start with peers and more specifically youth. And so I think that that's a table that I think that I'm happy to bring it forward. I want to encourage you and find me afterwards and we can exchange contact information. But I think that the only way we're going to move forward is by innovation, creativity, and courageousness and boldness. And I think it's having smart minds like you and Mary and many of you get around the table and think about what are some of those legality issues that play into working to make sure that we're being safe, thoughtful, and intentional when it comes to our youth. But I'll just close with saying, where there's a will, there's a way.
As Ebony was talking, some of what I was thinking about is a recognition of that where we do have youth supports, it has required pretty much the youth to be in a crisis setting or in a crisis, or their family are in a crisis, and then we're like, oh, we have all of these supports now for you. But guess what? You have all of this other stuff that happened, right? And so to your point, Teresa, the prevention piece is critical. And we talk a lot about, like, how do we tell the story? Because we know that prevention works, but we might not know that until 5 or 10 years ago, 10 years down the road, right? Because that intervention, that prevention stopped some pattern, right? So to your point, how do we both normalize the challenges that our youth are experiencing, and I think they are vast. I think the demands and the challenges that our youth are experiencing, actually, Ebony, I'm reflecting now back probably 20 years. The first table we set out together was actually all around children's mental health. It was all around children's mental health, and it was all about residential treatment and day treatment and in-home services. So the prevention piece is critical, and it is the first to go when budgets are tight, because we haven't figured out how to tell the story that actually prevention really does work. So leaders like you need to keep challenging leaders like us to say, when the going gets tough, you cannot cut prevention. And we've got to take prevention wherever the people are. And that's children in schools, it's to communities, and it has to just be an organic part of the way that we think about helping individuals understand mental health, understand substance use, just understanding hard knocks that happen in life, right? Where somebody just needs a little assistance to sort of get back on the path. So keep challenging us. I know you have a few peers who support the prevention conversation too.
And then I just want to add, because again, I want to hold myself accountable and not be one of those folks that work in government and be like, yeah, we can do that, without again being guided by our key tables with peers and consumers. And so I also thought about the Oregon Consumer Advisory Council would be another great table to bring that recommendation forward to, because I think, and I'm sure that and you all know this, especially when we think about bureaucracy, it requires dollars and resourcing, and it's important that we're taking advantage of civic engagement. And I know that the Oregon Consumer Advisory Council also has a time where they're also kind of thinking about and making policy recommendations to then bring forward to myself and the OHA director and to our legislators. And so again, I just think that the Oregon Consumer Advisory Council would be a good table. SOPAC would be another good table. That's a system of care table that focuses on children and youth. And I will make sure that I make a connection also for you. So.
Other questions? Got it.
specific programs. So if there's anything that we miss, we're small, we're busy. If there are programs that we miss, we'd like to highlight, I'd love to hear about them, but otherwise, I'd just like to advocate on behalf of the veteran population.
Any other questions?
So Dave, you know me, I can't resist a microphone. So I'm Gary, the Outreach and Development Manager for Oregon Clackamas. And first of all, I want to say, by proxy, Ebony, but certainly Clackamas County, thank you for being forward-thinking enough to support one of the most underserved populations in our county, in our state, in our country, which are parents of adult children who have mental health issues and are struggling with coming up with the techniques, tools, and means to support them as the parents age. And so it's been it's been great working with the county in terms of support for those programs. And I also wanted to mention something that you were talking about youth and that. And again, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that NAMI, especially NAMI Clackamas in particular, is beginning to launch something called NAMI on Campus Clubs in high schools. Okay? And those are really essential student-driven, student-led clubs that all we do is guide and provide structure for and continue to mentor and support, but they're essential, especially, like you said, at the high school level. And anything that OHA, Clackamas County, and anybody else can deal with can do to support those initiatives. We're going to be launching one in Estacada this coming year, and we're looking to do that with all the other school districts and all the other schools around Clackamas County, and maybe at some point in time through Oregon statewide. So I just wanted to put in a plug for that, and also let you know that we certainly appreciate your support now and moving forward.
Last call. Other questions? Don't be shy. I'll leave one more three board members ask a question. I know they're not shy.
I will ask another. So real question this time about the statement. In the current political climate with everything going on, can I assume that Oregon and Clackamas County are committed to all Oregonians? Can I just say that will make me feel better? 100%. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
nothing has changed.
Thank you so much, Mary and Ebony, not only for being here tonight and sharing your wisdom and experience, but also, I mean, you have both chosen career paths that were not for the money or the low stress. And even knowing how poorly you're going to be paid and how stressful it's going to be, you stuck with that. And that just really makes a difference to have people in your roles who have that experience and have that perspective over the long haul. So we really appreciate your service. And thanks for kicking off our renewed Ask the Experts. So I encourage you again, check out the flyers on the table to the right, and Frankie, who is one of our peer support specialists, raise your hand, Frankie. They will be happy because they have a laptop on the next table, and will be happy to sign you up for some of these upcoming events. So enjoy each other. Feel free to enjoy some more food, sign up for some events, take some flyers. Thanks for being here.